Hi everybody, and welcome to today's video. We're going to look at a game that I played at a recent tournament. I picked it out not because I thought it was a brilliant game by any means, but I thought that it was an instructive game, that we can learn something from this game. So I had the white pieces in this game, and I'm just going to start playing through the moves from the early part of the game. So I had white here. We kicked off with e4. My opponent played c5, and we got into a Sicilian defense. Now, I prefer this bishop b5 system than the d4 systems. You just have to know what suits your particular style of play, and I've found that this is a little bit more positional and better suited to my chess style. So my opponent played e6 here, and I castled. So white's got a nice early lead in development. So a good move here from black. He plays knight to f6, just challenging that central pawn, and I chose to just play rook to e1 rather than playing knight to c3 or d3. So bishop to e7, black prepares to castle, and now c3 is preparing for the move d4. So black castles now, d4 comes, and d4. So I've achieved what I wanted out of the opening. I've got these nice pawns in central locations controlling these four important squares in black's territory. And black is a little bit more cramped. White definitely has a space advantage, and the goal is going to be to complete development and try to take advantage of that space advantage. So anyway, this is one of the critical moments in the game, and black plays here d5, basically just contesting the center and forcing white to commit. So because I didn't want to free his position any, I played the cramping move e5, and black is still fine here, but my opponent makes a strategic mistake, and I think this is one of the key kind of part of this video. I think if black now plays knight to e4, he's fine. You know, he can develop his bishop on d7, bring his rook to c8, and then he can start operations on the queen side. However, I mean, basically white's going to look to exchange off this piece. We can't leave it just loitering on the edge of our territory for too long. So, however, my opponent made the move knight to d7 instead. Now, knight to d7 is a mistake, because when you are behind in development and you have a cramped position, which is common in this French defense pawn chain, where the pieces are kind of blockaded behind, having one extra piece behind that pawn chain is going to stifle your game even more, and it's going to cause congestion among those black pieces. If we flip the board here, you can see just how much more space white has behind these pawns. We've got nice open diagonals for the dark squared bishop, and white is going to have no problems freeing his position. The queen can come out to d2 or d3 out along this light squared diagonal, or in front of the rook onto e2. So there's plenty of options for white, but black seems kind of hemmed in and restricted. The dark squared bishop has some freedom, but the light squared bishop is really bad, and the queen can only get out along this diagonal. So white already has quite a reasonable advantage here. Play continued here with a3. I just wanted to take away a square a potential pinning square. So if, for example, I'd played knight c3, then bishop b4 could become a problem pinning against this rook. It probably isn't a problem, but I just wanted to restrict him even more. We had a6, which it's better for me here. Possibly I could have played bishop takes c6 and then try to target this black pawn on the c6 square, but most likely he's going to be able to play c5 then and undermine the base of this pawn chain. So I decided instead to come to a4, and when he followed up with b5, I bring the bishop to c2. So black has gained some space here. He's got a good control of the c4 square, but his bishop is imprisoned by these pawns on a6 and b5, and then d5 and e6. And it's not clear how he's ever going to get that into the game, at least for quite a long time. Whereas this bishop now is bearing down, and these two bishops are working well in tandem, controlling a lot of squares leaning towards the black king. And also these pawns are pointed towards the black king. You look at the pawn chain. So black's opportunities lie on the queen side, but because of the cramped nature of his position, white has much the better chances. So he decides now to play bishop to b7, preparing rook to c8, and white plays now a fairly obvious move. It's just queen to d3. So now we've got this nice battery of the bishop and the queen bearing down on black's position, and it forces the first concession from black, and that's the weakening move g6. So it's not that big of a deal, but basically when you've got an advantage like this, you're looking to slowly increase that advantage, and then if your opponent makes any kind of mistake, you want to try to seize on that mistake and capitalize. So after g6, I played b4 just to try to slow down any kind of counterattack on the queen side, and he takes the king into the corner here with h8. I'm not sure that was the best move. I think I would have just looked to get knight b6 in and try to get into the c4 square, which is quite a bad hole in white's position. So knight to d2 now, preparing knight b3, and then possibly knight c5. And then rook to g8. I think he was just kind of hemmed in and struggling to come up with a plan here, so he was just trying to do whatever he could to drum up some kind of activity. I think knight b6 would have been a better option. So knight b3, rook c8. He's setting up some potential tactics with here with bishop takes b4, a takes b4, and then knight takes b4, hitting the bishop and the queen with a double attack from the rook and knight. So I just overprotect now this pawn with bishop to d2. So knight to a7. The knight is really bad in the corner, and you can see that the knight is restricted to just one square, and that's the square from whence it came. So now just rook to c1. I'm just preventing any kind of tactics or allowing him to take control of this this important c file, which is his main chance for some sort of counterattack. So knight to b6 now, which is a good move. He's just eyeing the c4 square, and I seized the opportunity to get in knight c5 here. So this is the second critical moment in the game, and this will conclude part 1 of the video. As we come to the end of this video, I want you to think about what are the implications now if black were to play bishop takes c5. Thanks for watching part 1, and I'll see you in part 2 of the video.